Okay, hello everybody. So today I'm trying something new. Now, if you've followed my channel, you've probably seen a lot of underwater footage, videography of small animals underwater in the Philippines, a lot of really fascinating tiny stuff, and a little bit of travel vlogging in the Philippines, a little bit of humor, a few interviews. And so this is a new series. I'm going live to talk about my experience in scuba diving. And my experience in scuba diving dates back to 1987 when I got certified together with my dad in Sicily, in in Italy, obviously. And then I really started diving a lot in my mid 20s, and now I'm 50 years old. And I'm occasionally teaching scuba diving. I scuba dive almost every week, and I thought it's fun and entertaining, and hopefully informative for you to hear about my take on different aspects of scuba. Now, what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about what to expect when doing a Discover Scuba Diver program. So we're going to work our way up. We're going to work our way up from the person who thinks, wow, scuba diving is cool, I want to give it a shot, walks into a dive shop or a resort and says, I want to do a try dive or a discover scuba diving. Same thing. And we're going to work our way up to the beginner course, which is called the open water course, and uh, advanced rescue dive master instructor course, technical diver, a couple of specialties. So I hope this helps you, choose what kind of dive training to take, what kind of things to go for, whether this is something for you at all, or whether this is something you actually don't want to do. Now, of course, please check out the rest of the channel, like, subscribe, leave a comment, and yeah, check out all this underwater macro videography. Now, discover scuba diving. So what is it? Let's say you are not sure if you want to actually scuba dive. You don't want to spend the better part of a week taking a beginner course. Instead, what you want to do is you just want to give it a shot. Go with an instructor, do it in a safe, very controlled way. Go for a little try dive and then check, is that something I enjoy? Is that something that freaks me out? Is that something that I find positively addictive that I want to do more of? All these kinds of things. And so there are these different scuba diving certification agencies. PADI is one of these. I'm teaching via PADI, but there are many others, SDI, SSI, RAID, NAUI. I'm actually a NAUI dive master. And so, before I became an instructor, I was a NAUI dive master. Now, the thing is, all these different agencies essentially offer the same thing. So you want to make sure, of course, you choose a proper dive shop and a proper scuba diving instructor who is with one of these associations, not just a dude who has scuba diving gear at home and who has done this a few times before. And obviously, if you do this in Europe or in the US, there's no way around that, right? You will get in serious trouble if you offer this to non-divers, diving training to non-divers, if you don't have a certification. However, if you backpack in Southeast Asia, you'd be surprised sometimes. So make sure your instructor for your Discover Scuba Diving is a proper certified instructor. Now, so what is your experience going to be like? It will probably take about half a day, and it will start with a little bit of paperwork. Now, there's the boring paperwork, this is my address, and there is the paperwork which is actually quite important. which is you will be asked to sign a medical waiver. Now, what is a medical waiver? It's a it's a document which says, I have these kinds of medical problems, yes or no, and then this will ask for things like, lung health, cardiac health. There would be. I'm just checking my gain on my microphone. That do I have something like epilepsy? So there are a couple of issues which your instructor or your diving resort will ask you about, which will be either a problem potentially when diving, and or which will preclude you from diving. Now, it's really important that you're honest at this point, and it's not a good idea to just say, well, I have a really bad heart, but I'm not going to tell them that because otherwise they won't let me dive. Why are the dive shops asking these questions? Well, quite obviously, here it's physiological stress to be underwater. So if you have a lung problem, that might get seriously exacerbated. It might get seriously worse once you're underwater, and so you want to avoid diving. Some of these questions are not precluding you from diving totally, but what they, you have to go see a medical doctor, and you have to go see a medical doctor and get a kind of you have to get a signed waiver. So the medical doctor has to make a decision whether you're fit to dive or not. So let's say you have some kind of problem with your whatever, with you had a little bit of asthma when you were a child 20 years ago. The medical doctor might be able to sign you off, and you can dive nevertheless. But it's important that you get that sorted out. Okay, so this seems like a mundane, like a bland, boring detail, but that's actually quite important. So this will be number one. Then you will get a little lecture about a few things like pressure, what it does to the human body, a very basic introduction in the diving equipment, all of these things, right? This should not take longer than half an hour. Sometimes you get to watch a video, and sometimes you will have a little lecture by a scuba instructor, and that's also, if you have any questions, you can ask these at this point. And then typically the diving starts. Now they're typically, when you do this in a place with a nice ocean in the Philippines, there are typically two parts. And one is you start in the pool. Why do you start in the pool? Well, everything is very controlled, right? Should you all of a sudden panic and shoot up, it's much better to be in a pool and only shoot up 1 meter from a depth of 1 meter. So essentially, I have thank you for the comment in the chat. So if there is any problem you're experiencing in the swimming pool, it's very easy to solve, and it's not going to injure you if all of a sudden you don't want to be there anymore. The edge of the pool is only going to be 3 meters away. What are you going to do in the pool? You will just train the basics of scuba diving. Things like clearing your mask, recovering your regulator, inflating your buoyancy compensator jacket, and probably being able to swim underwater and hover neutrally. A few very, very basic things. So at this point, you should also realize, is this freaking me out? Do I not want to do this, or do I actually think this is really cool? Sometimes, if you're doing a Discover Scuba Diving experience in Germany in the winter, you will swim around more in the pool, and that might be it, right? Your pool session might be it. If you're in the Philippines or whatever, Indonesia, in the Caribbean, in a nice place with a warm ocean, what you're gonna do? the what you're going to do is to jump in the ocean with your instructor and look at nice fish and corals. And this is going to take you probably 30-40 minutes of nice swimming around. Often this is magical, right? If you're comfortable with it, the diving equipment, this is, for many people, this is the first time that they see corals, they see all these coral reef fish, and it's a transcendental experience. Often, really, it gets people hooked, and they want to do more. Sometimes people enjoy it, but they're kind of not comfortable with so much equipment, and maybe they're not as fit as they should be, or they don't like the experience of being underwater. Could still be good, right? But then they also understand, this was fun, but this is not for me to do more of that. Now, a few things about that. You will um, at most have four students together with one instructor. Typically, you will actually have one or two. Because why is one or two a good number? Because humans have two hands, right? So if I'm taking somebody scuba diving on a DSD, on a Discover Scuba Diving experience, I would like to be able to immediately grab them if there's something wrong or something funny going on with them. And you will not dive deeper than 12 meters, probably even shallower. So here, as some of you know, if you watch my other videos, I live and dive in the Darwin Dumaguete area on Negros Island. There are amazing corals in 4 meters. So you don't have to do a deep dive to see anything cool. But just the experience of being weightless underwater is really amazing. So what will happen? You will swim a circle over the little coral reef in the area where you are with your instructor. The instructor will be always at arm's length. Should there be any problem, like you have a cramp, you're tired, you don't feel good anymore, I don't know, you're really hungry, or you're afraid of that seahorse over there, you will you can use sign language like this, right? This means there's a problem, and your instructor can immediately terminate that dive. So this is a very controlled, very easygoing dive. So your instructor is completely in charge of your safety and of your well-being. You're not expected to take care of really any diving related issues yourself, in contrast to later when you're a certified diver. So essentially, your instructor is there to completely babysit you and make sure nothing dangerous, or even remotely unpleasant can happen. It's in many cases that will not happen. In many cases, people love it. They would be weightless. They would see all these amazing fish, corals, sponges, other invertebrates, sea stars. And then, they would come up and say, this is really cool. I want to take a beginner course. So, and this experience takes, as I mentioned, about half a day. So when people, if it's not for you, you haven't wasted much time. If you want to continue, typically some of the very basic exercises you do during this Discover Scuba Diving experience, these basic exercises are also the beginning of the actual beginner course. So this is probably the last thing I should mention. What you get, you get like a cool vibes, and you get a great experience. You don't get a certification card. You're not a certified diver afterwards. For that, I will talk about that next week. You have to do what's called a open water course, open water diver course. So in order, that takes about 4 days. If you do the DSD, you can either take a proper course. If you want to, next month, take another DSD, you're welcome to. But, it's not the certification from a Discover Scuba Diving experience that, is not anything permanent, or is not anything that stays with you. So you don't actually get dive training. You get to try it out once. So yeah, I mean, I hope this was interesting. The next week, I will talk about the first part of the open water course, the beginner course. If you have, well, everybody who joins on this first live, thank you, and see you next week.